the last time that happened, where they had to come in and basically help restructure. I think that was right in 2007. Sorry, I can't say. Right before the big crash. So I've seen a lot of doom tweets out there as well that things are cracking. So cautious optimism is all. Two pharma giants are secretly discussing a $400 billion merger. $400 billion deal, which would be the largest deal in industry history, would create the fourth largest pharmaceutical company. Amazon became a $3 trillion company. Amazon joins the club, the $3 trillion market cap. So Nvidia, Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, all at $3 trillion. Upside of this is astronomical.
I'd be cautious about it because there are days like this where it's like pop and then it's just nice liquidity for people to exit. But then the smart money is just using you as exit liquidity to sell out for the rest of the week.
Cause we pop 'em like over red and vodka. C3, okay, a millionaire. I'm a young money millionaire.
Welcome back. Trump just called off the strikes in Iran. Oil is crashing 5%, and Amazon became a $3 trillion company. Also happens to be number one in my portfolio, so very happy about that. Been waiting for years, and it's finally taken off. Two pharma giants are secretly discussing a $400 billion merger. Feels good today. We finally got some green. It feels like that's been a while here, Jody. But how are we feeling, man? How was your weekend?
I think there's, I feel for the community. 80 million now lost with the hack. With the.
I think it's higher. I think I saw higher.
30 million is where it started with when we first talked about it, but then 80 million now. So there's. People continue to get drained. A lot of people over the weekend, I know, we're doing support, which is super cool. Bitcoin Mentor, I think Bitcoin Mentor is the group. They were doing streams, a lot of content, which I think is excellent. But yeah, it's still happening, and it's happening to average people. And I think that's the difference. It's like if you had Amazon and you've been holding it for a while, like you said, what if it was like the stock was just gone? And I think. So instead of being like an SBF or like some big bank or exchange getting hacked, it's actually like real plebs and it's meaningful money for them. So I think, morale is down on that front. People are moving to other options. We've talked about other options. We were on Roxxon before. I think it's good to see. I know there's some fatigue over the weekend just with like, all right, is this just another the Iranian war? Like, is this another fake negotiation? Because I did see what said, hey, we haven't been negotiating with you. Every ship should go through the IRGC if you're going through the Strait. So are people getting fatigued by like what Trump is saying? And I think that was like one take over the weekend, which does somewhat scare me. And like, do you trust today? And I don't know if I would be like buying necessarily today. I could be wrong, easily could be wrong. I'd be cautious about it because there are days like this where it's like a pop and then it's just nice liquidity for people to exit. But then the smart money is just using you as exit liquidity to sell out for the rest of the week. I'm not sure.
I think what I've learned over the years is just expect the unexpected. That's where I came up with zig when they zag, just because all the market news has been negative. I thought we were going to walk into, I guess obviously Amazon crushed it. But the market news in general, looking at the macro, I agree with you. It does not look the best. And so cautious optimism today. It is nice to see the portfolios green. I was saying, going back to the cold card, to kind of wrap that up, I do think a lot of people were hurt. People we know got hit pretty hard. And so I think that is something that people need to trust and verify, like you said on the last podcast, and just to make sure. And you can never be too safe out there. So it feels like multi-sig, big win for them. I did see that River added, I think, 3,000 Bitcoin coming off that as well. And so the irony of what most podcasters have been talking about for forever is just to make sure you have your own wallet. And unfortunately this happened. And the community got pretty hurt from that. But
one thing I'm pounding the table on before you on that is, I was just talking on Roxxon about this, just diversification of the vendors you work with. Like there's a human in the loop with so much, and including yourself. If you have a cool, like really complex multi-sig setup, well, dementia is super common. So is getting hit by a car or getting in a car accident. So like make sure your family can actually get your Bitcoin. And I think that's where diversification is a huge thing. I would suggest. I was doing even more of it on Friday, making real moves. So just the providers that you work with, separate them out. Try to diversify your stack a little bit. Have some you can move fast. Have some maybe in an IRA, maybe in a tax advantaged account for Bitcoin, but then also like have some on like a secure exchange. Maybe you're using a River or an Unchained or some kind of like multi-sig setup, but don't just rely on yourself. Don't just rely on a single party.
Yeah. Moving over to stocks. We'll keep an eye out on the cold card. I think it's important to kind of keep track of that. I was surprised Bitcoin didn't drop more. I had a lot of normie friends actually reach out and ask me like what the situation is. And I told them that I was surprised it did not drop more. I was joking with Rob actually about going on the street and being like, I think if you asked 100 people on the street, maybe 1 or 2 would know what happened. And so while we live in our little Bitcoin bubble, I think the majority of folks probably are unaware, even the folks that are like in ETFs and whatnot. So important to note. And we're starting to see some of the shift back to institutional where people just feel a little bit safer, which is not ideal as Bitcoiners, in my opinion. But coming over on the stock side, it is Market Monday. As we mentioned, Amazon joins the club of the $3 trillion market cap. So NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, all at 3 trillion. Amazon feels like it should have been there. To me, it's been one of the strongest companies over the past decade plus. And they can just continue to crush it. Their AWS numbers were great. Obviously, CapEx was massive, but they are up again today after a huge beat last week. And I'm excited. I feel like we talked about this multiple times with Chris Camillo saying kind of the last tail here of this AI trade is really going to be with some of the hyperscalers that are going to see that downstream benefit from it. And even though the CapEx is massive right now, I think it is something that people are looking into the future and saying, hey, AI is real. Something similar will happen where, I think the people that invested in the trains and the railway forever didn't see a lot of initial impact on that. And it took years later for it to actually come into fruition. I think that's where we're at right now with the AI trade is companies are maybe not seeing the insane uplift compared to how much they're spending, but they realize that it's going to be here to stay. It may take a year or 2 to get this implemented correctly, but the upside of this is astronomical. So I know I'm happy right now. A lot of the Mag 7 are all up right now. So I hope it's not a bear trap like you were talking about.
Yeah, I think it's for names like this, I think Amazon feels a little bit safer. A few things to think about is like Microsoft Copilot. It's something where at my sister's like large corporation that she works at, like she's allowed to use Copilot for a lot of their data. She's not allowed to take that off and put it in Anthropic or put it in ChatGPT. So like there is the distribution level that is going to be so key. And Amazon already has so many developers and a huge implementation ecosystem where they already have, the customer install base that they can go in and apply these different products. So like, as we look at how do you get AI to actually driving revenue, bridging that gap to having it, in B2B corporate workflows, actually in, existing businesses, Amazon, I think definitely has an advantage there, just like Microsoft has. And as we've seen Microsoft, they haven't always been guiding the right place, like the Steve Ballmer years, but then coming back to it, you're like, oh, like they were fine. They were big enough, too big to fail in a sense, just by having just this legacy tech. So if they can innovate and get back on course, I think Amazon is going to have some super interesting things they can do, but they can also weather the storm through a downturn because they have that, retail business, shipping, logistics, etc.
Yeah. I would say with a company this size, you're not going to see it continue to fly for the entire month. I mean, it has been down. It was kind of like, I'd hate to say a hated stock because everyone probably has it in their portfolio, the S&P 500. If you don't have Amazon, you should, or you should have at least. But I do think that, even at 3 trillion, Amazon's trading at 44% below its 10-year average of multiple. I found that interesting. So I pulled up this guy, Kurt Altricker. So giving him some love, small account, maybe only 6 likes. So we'll give him his lucky 7. But I do think it is one of those things. It ripped 25% now when I last checked. So it could have changed a little bit in the past 10 minutes or so, but past 3 days. So anytime that happens, you want to probably not add a ton right out the gates, but this is interesting that it's still trading below its 10-year average multiple at 44%. But like we were saying, I think it is one of these times for cautious optimism. It feels like a lot of things are cracking. One story we didn't touch on is the U.S. working with Japan as well. And I think the last time that happened, where they had to come in and basically help restructure, I think that was right in 2007. Sorry, I can't say that. 2007, right before the big crash. So I've seen a lot of doom tweets out there as well that things are cracking. So cautious optimism is how I'll start the show over here. The other thing I wanted to touch on as well is big pharma. I know you're a big pharma guy with Lilly. AstraZeneca is discussing a merger today with Bristol Squibb. It's been going on, I guess, over the past few months, but this is big over the news right now. $400 billion deal, which would be the largest deal in industry history, would create the 4th largest pharmaceutical company. I don't know. Lilly is the one that I know you're in. Lilly feels like it's got the right things going on, right? It had the first GLP-1, and then it obviously has Retta coming up, which I think is going to be a miracle drug for a lot of people. And I think the market's still undervaluing that. Anything to add here on the big pharma? We don't really touch on pharma often, but
yeah, I think it's a complex thing where, like, I wouldn't say I'm know the full landscape super well, but let's say, like, I think a good comparison, like, let's look at NVIDIA and look at chips and look at how it compares to AMD, look at some of the other players. Some of them have performance-wise caught up, but not caught up fully, by no means. But, when I was looking at NVIDIA 5-7 years ago, and it was just gaming, it was GPUs, I passed on it because I was like, I'm not sure. I really don't know gaming that well, and the stock's already done super well. And that was before AI, and I would have been, multimillionaire just off of like an NVIDIA position if I would have just chosen that. But I made the mistake of not choosing the fastest horse in the race, even though because they already had the lead. I was like, oh, AMD will catch up. AMD hasn't run yet. And that's not the way to necessarily look at it. I think, it'd be an interesting question for a sniper, but there are markets where winner take most. I don't think, pharma is not, we don't want to have too much concentration risk, but I think it's this example of, like, it could be an NVIDIA situation where the risk reward is just buy more Lilly because they have really good product market fit versus buying, the third or fourth player that may not catch up. They may not have, the trust with the consumers of, hey, the efficacy of the drug works, the side effects are low, one side effect could derail, versus like somebody that already has momentum like Lilly, or like Novo Nordisk,
Yeah. I want to take a quick look at earnings for the week on companies that we at least talk about, or a lot of people on FinTwit are discussing. Obviously, the big name here is Palantir. After the close today, we'll get into that one a little bit more here in just a second. Pfizer, we're just talking about big pharma before the open tomorrow. McDonald's tomorrow. Hut 8 is a company that we've interviewed several times. So Asher, I know, is going to come back on the show soon. Merck, another big pharma. But AMD and SpaceX. So this is going to be, I think this is like the first earnings now after SpaceX IPO'd. So that one will be interesting. Open Door was a FinTwit darling, I'd say, for a bit. I'm out of that one. I just couldn't get behind the business. As cool as it sounded, and the folks on Twitter were making it sound, just digging into that more and more, and looking even in New Jersey here. I think there's like 6 houses listed or something on Open Door. So got that one out, and I don't think I'm going to get back in unless the story completely changes. And then we got Eli Lilly. So what what are you expecting here for Lilly's Open on Wednesday?
Where are we looking at? Let me pull this up.
While you pull that up, I'll go through the rest of them, and then we'll come back to Palantir. Shopify, Eli Lilly, Uber, Circle, Riot, interesting as well on Wednesday. SanDisk, that one was going to be interesting here. This is a big week, actually. Holy shit. SanDisk, AppLovin, Mercado Libre, Axon. Those are all names we've traded before. Then we got Datadog. Celsius was a big one back in the day. We were just talking about that with Joey last week on the Monday markets, because that was a darling back in FinTwit darling 2020. And then it just completely has fallen off. But I've seen more and more people drinking it. So I did stop drinking them because they have sucralose in it. So I kind of sold the stock after that. I was like, it's not as healthy.
What's the story on sucralose?
Cancer. There's some studies that it can get you cancer. So not into that. Not financial or doctor advice there.
Not health advice.
In trouble. Then we got DraftKings, which I want to touch on real quick. Airbnb and the Trade Desk, which is another one that's just been getting demolished. Which I think they're a good company. So I haven't dug in enough there why they're getting crushed so much the past year or so, but I'm assuming it has to do with AI. But they are, Jeff Green is their CEO, is a really smart guy. So I'm so shocked that it's been just getting decimated. And then we got Wendy's. I know everyone's trading Wendy's out there. Wendy's actually was a meme stock for a little bit there.
It was.
So we'll see if the Reddit guys are gonna pop back here. But DraftKings I wanted to touch on, because DraftKings was, there's a lot of competition now in that space, but I don't think you see anyone more. If you watch sports, it's every other commercial is an ad for either DraftKings, FanDuel, one of the sports books that are out there. DraftKings, though, I wonder if they're going to surprise, because right now it's kind of this dead period where people are not a lot of people are betting baseball, just to put it simply. Football obviously is by far and away where they make their cash cow. But DraftKings this is the first quarter, I believe, when they've had all 50 states on board, and they're doing it through. I don't know why it took them so long to do this, but DraftKings is doing it very similar to Kalshi. So in the states that they're not allowed to legally bet, they're doing it in a similar way as a prediction market. So it looks and feels like you're still betting. It looks like the whole sports book, but it is a little different, where it is the kind of UX basically of a Kalshi or a prediction market. So curious if they come out and surprise people, because I don't know if much of retail is thinking about that. I'll let you pull up Eli Lilly. Been on a nice little run.
So interesting. It'll be interesting to see. So right now, I think Sniper was looking at Lilly shares yesterday. He's talking around that. It's at 11.16. Super interesting thing is for the end of week, you see this 1200 level here. Let's see how far, if we can go back. It's already been running a fair amount back up to like near all-time highs. 1200, the options contracts for end of week are $14. Meaning you're paying for a single contract. You're going to be looking at
$1,400.
$1,400. Like their price, like the options market, that's very rich. I think in maybe just pre-earnings. So just be very careful. And I think that would make a lot of sense why Sniper's talking about shares more. Here sees like, an easy long-term play by shares, but maybe don't get caught up in weekly options for Lilly. I think that's too pricey to get to a level that's, you're knocking near all-time highs, but paying $1,400 to do so is, I don't think.
I just think in this environment too, weekly options is, it's always gambling. But it is just one tweet away from we're going back to war with Iran. How many this has been going on now? Probably 15, 20 times where it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. So I wouldn't risk a huge bag on the fingers of Donald Trump, but who knows? I mean, it's definitely a stock that I foresee getting up to 1,400, 1,500 at some point, because that Reddit drug is going to change the world for so many people. It's not just like weight loss again. It crushed. I got to pull the numbers back up, but cholesterol comes down, fatty liver comes down. So like doctors are going to be prescribing this quite a bit. And I also think a lot of the gray market peptides are going to start to come off, and get a lot of cease and desist. I know that was happening a while back, but especially once it's live, like they got to protect their, their unique formula there. So, then I wanted to touch on, let me pull up the Palantir. So Palantir, I feel like always does well, or their earnings are well. And they've got quite a few deals that they've been doing here in Q2. Kirkland Ellis partnership expansion, 500 million, 300 million BPA with the Department of Agriculture, Dell and NVIDIA partnership, Zeta Global Strategic Partnership, Google Cloud partnership. So it could get very interesting. I mean, Alex Karp is one of my favorite CEOs. I have a love-hate relationship, I'd say, with Palantir after selling, 3x, which I thought was great, and then it ran up another 50x after that. But curious if you're seeing anything with Palantir at all. That
it's a hard one to track. Like, there's so much interest in it. I think war, like if you truly believe the war is decreasing, like there's going to be less of that like immediate urgency, right? But I think there's it's something where like the data side makes a ton of sense, of like someone being able to use the data, and people are going to be chasing less of like the early names. I think are going to be, and more so who has the relationships that they can actually monetize AI, right? So like just like same thesis with Amazon. Somebody who already has a huge developer ecosystem, who already has contracts with everyone running on Amazon Cloud, AWS. Same thing with Palantir. I think it's interesting to have like the ability to be able to apply some of these really cool technologies and pull in data together. I don't know. I think a true end to the war, though, also makes it just like
yes and no. I would say like we're where are we going here? Let's take this off. Let's try it again. There we go. Yeah. I was gonna say, it feels like with Flock. I don't know if you've researched Flock, but we are moving towards this police state. It feels like, right, where there's cameras every single direction you look. There's a website I gotta pull up at some point, but it's like I've been flocked, and you can see if your car has been flocked. Essentially, for those that do not know Flock, let me pull this up because it is interesting. Basically, it's a consortment of cameras. Here, banish Big Brother. Like, people are very scared of this. The idea is if something happens, they can be able to track constantly and see a car. If there was like a murder case, they can be able to track that. And look at how many of these are. Is this showing up? Yeah. There's literally millions of these cameras going on right now. And so the mass surveillance.
Near me, that's good.
Say what? Yeah,
there's not that many near me. I'm happy about that.
You got enough over there, but yeah, the East Coast is getting dark, decimated with flocks. But I just think this police state that we're living in, it's like Axon was a big thesis of mine too. During the BLM rallies, there was like a million things going on. Now they're having drones everywhere, and Palantir is obviously in that space, somewhat, by being able to track and see movements. And
yeah,
it just feels like we're entering, between the digital assets and, how much debt all these nations are in. I don't want to say this, but it does feel like things are boiling, right? And a company like Palantir benefits from that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do pretty well on earnings here. And
the flock cameras, I think that's a side where it like seems conspiracy at first, and like obviously a lot of libertarians, Bitcoiners are very careful around that. But it's a really scary thing that you hope people on both sides of the aisle see how profiling could be bad. Like the knife cuts both ways, both like during, COVID, if people aren't taking the vaccine, or also it could be racial profiling. So people on the left should honestly, and progressives should honestly very, very much care about like racial profiling or profiling due to gender or sexuality. Like, I think that it depends on who's in power, and you don't want that. Like you want to have a level of privacy. So I do know that locally, one of our friends, Bo, talks about the city council voted to remove some of the cameras, which is like a big step forward, because normally once something's installed, it's unlikely they're going to pull it back. The last thing I'll say is just like AI is just, it can do so much. So one person like North Korea could hack in and somewhat like pull all the data, all the camera data, and then suddenly they're looking at private US citizens, and it's never been as easy with AI to actually make sense of that data and do something with it. Potentially like buy up news ads locally and shape an election, so very scary things.
Yeah, let me pull this up here. Yeah, here we go. Let me do this one. This is a 3-minute clip. I think this is actors. You tell me what you think. But let me do this. All right, so tell me if these are actors.
We have cameras everywhere in that town. You can't get a breath of fresh air in or out without us knowing.
Chrisana Elzer learned the power of Flock firsthand.
You were in town from 11:52 until 12:09. Exactly. Like I said, nothing gets in or out of the town without us knowing.
When a Colorado police officer showed up at her door holding Flock snapshots of her truck.
And here's when you left at 12:09. That's when you left town.
To get.
No, to stop at Ridge Trail.
Wait a minute.
And take a package. Well, there's no shushing. I don't need to be.
I need to know where this is.
The first thing he pulled out on the body cam is that Flock picture, the clear photograph of your car.
But here's your vehicle in the neighborhood many, many times, apparently casing houses, because you just can't drive through for work or visit other businesses. You can only be casing houses.
It is her. It is 100%. It is locked in. There is zero doubt. I wouldn't have come here unless I was 100% sure. 100%. It is certain. It is on video. You're obviously welcome to go to court.
Chrisana was charged with stealing a package, but it wasn't her. The porch pirate was somebody else.
Multiple times you tried to show him your video evidence. He didn't want to see it.
Even when I called him back, he said, that's not my job.
You looked at a time of a crime. You saw my vehicle entering in the Flock.
No. What I did was I did an investigation.
You called my wife a liar. You saying this is fact.
I have video evidence. I don't know what you want me to say.
The charges were dropped after Chrisana spent weeks trying to get the police chief to look at her evidence. Time-stamped video from her truck and a neighbor's doorbell camera showing she wasn't at the scene of the crime.
What does it say about where we are that you feel you have to have more cameras than the police have in order to make sure you can prove yourself innocent?
It sounds like it flipped the script to you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent.
Without a Flock camera, that detective would not have been at her door. By his own admission, he pulled out the Flock picture of her car. Do you want to apologize to Chrisana Elzer for what happened to her?
For the police misusing the tools? I don't think that I have to apologize.
He wasn't charged with a crime. He wasn't, other than being reprimanded for his attitude.
Sure. No, but I would tell you that, like, should I apologize for somebody misusing a tool? I don't think so.
Flock Safety Chief Communications Officer Josh Thomas.
Who's watching the watchers in these cases?
Well, the city council. The city owns the data, so city council would have the appropriate responsibility in that case. Our point of view has always been that it is not Flock's job to police the way police do their work.
Pretty crazy. That felt like actors, though, right? Or not?
Police seemed like an actor. He like seemed to like his he was just down with it so easy. It
was just clear to, I don't know. I would, gun to my head, I'd say that those are actors trying to showcase the not vulnerabilities, but like maybe it is
reenactment,
Yeah, reenacting kind of what it would look like. But yeah, it is scary. I mean, it could, with any technology, it could be used for good or it could be used for bad. But stuff like that could happen easily, where people are wrongfully accused. AI, confuses someone for someone else, and people, so It is kind of scary. I just think in AI in general. I mean, police could like, these body cameras don't come out for weeks and weeks. You could have someone that's very good at AI and editing, make it look like someone's there, so we are living in pretty crazy times. Hopefully there's laws or something that has to show if something has been edited or not, but it's going to be very tough. Let's wrap this up with Bitcoin, and let me know what your thoughts are coming up here. Like, we had that big cold card, say that fast, incident. The Bitcoiners, community feels on edge, I'd say. In your eyes, though, why do you think the markets have not reacted as much?
I'm surprised. I mean, you could see, even if it's retail, you could still see some, there's like been record movement, for someone like, I think River reported of seeing record movement on their end of transactions. Also, like, I think there was transactions under one Bitcoin on Friday reached like almost like an all-time high, or maybe not all-time high, but like for this year, so people are moving assets, for good reason, securing things. So you're surprised you wouldn't see it more. I did speak with Borja Martels and Luca from Roxham this morning, and like, I do think that gives somewhat like feeling of bottomish vibes of like, hey, like, here's, situational awareness blowing up last week with his hedge fund. Like, you need someone to fail for us to be able to go back up again. You need some kind of clearing out of the frothiness. You also had like the Kospi come down, like South Korea's stock market, and wipe out a lot of their leverage. So those are good points towards bottoming. Borja is thinking very much like, he thinks we still have pain to come, popping of the bubble, so to speak. So I think it shows that like Bitcoin's become pretty institutional, that you have, real adoption, and you have people that are in the ETF and aren't moving assets every day, or it's in a retirement account because it's an IRA that you're buying the ETF, and that's the easiest thing to buy. So that gives the market a little bit of things. I don't think it's going to move that fast back up. So that was my takeaway. Is like maybe 85 by December, and it's not like the 120 in a month.
But if people are scared to hold Bitcoin on their own, cold storage, it moves it more to an active Bitcoin, right? And I think that's important to start thinking about. Is like, people, the best Bitcoin for pricing is if people are sitting on it effectively, and not, they're not going out to sell or move it. If you put it into an ETF, they're constantly buying and selling. So it is interesting to see what happens when the power is taken from the people. It'll be interesting to see if they find what's that at. Go see if you can pull that up with predicts to see what that's at for how many people think if they're going to find who is behind this. Not to be the conspiracy guy, but I could see. What if you think the government wanted to do that, to start pulling people away from the cold storage?
Yeah, that is interesting.
I know you're going to go through the whole thing, but I know you recently moved yours off, so we were lucky in that sense. We didn't get affected, but
here's the I'll pull this up first. %. I mean, I think Mike Belshi from BitGo was talking around. He was asking Anthropic, I challenge you to go find and hack the address that's holding this amount of Bitcoin. It likely one like tied to this theft, right? So it's like, if you truly have Mythos level capabilities, few people are gonna be mad if you go in and like hack the hacker, and recover a lot of these funds.
I was trying to find that. I think it was 1,000 Bitcoin he had. Or was that tweet? There we go. 100 Bitcoin. Let me pull it up real quick. So, either Anthropic is terrible at building sandboxes or excellent at marketing, or both. but enough with the we created the hacking monster games. Do it for real. I put this on a Bitcoin wallet for you. Go ahead and get it. Now, this could be potentially the most famous tweet in history if they do hack it. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, that would,
he's good though.
does Bitcoin go to zero if they hack it? Like, I mean, that would send shockwaves throughout Bitcoin, I think.
I think it's a cool tool, but like, why is he not like figuring out like a wallet address that's being drained right now and then going and focusing on that? Like, maybe he doesn't want to put attention on that because it, you know, would chases, you know, obviously disperses the hacker faster. I'm not sure, but
Well, he's trying to, this is a marketing technique by BitGo.
yeah, I think it would be
Or
better
they-
in this time to be like kind of white hacking versus this. He could put this tweet out like anytime, you know, and as a marketing tactic. I kind of wish that he was doing more like Batman style.
Yeah, well, he's not going. He's not saying he can find it. He's you know, leading up BitGo, where he's basically trying to say BitGo is safe, right?
Yeah,
He's like, come try to hack our wallet. I think they have MPC, right? So they're saying that his push here is basically saying that BitGo's wallet is safe, and so it's a call to everyone that has a cold card or had this, and saying, okay, you know what, maybe I should go to BitGo.
yeah. Oh yeah,
That
no,
was
I
my
get
take
that.
on
I
it.
think it'd be better if he was like, hey, I'll put up a bounty if you go, you know, go hack the wallet so that we can like return those funds.
Yes, if the 100 BTC. So Belshi, if you're listening, give that 100 BTC back to people that lost money if they do hack it. Or Anthropic should then give it back.
Yeah.
But I think that would be extremely detrimental to Bitcoin. And I know I wouldn't be surprised if it went down significantly if that were to happen. But so what'd you do with Ledin, or is that for not to tease that out? But
No, we'll talk about it. So like what I talked about on Roxham today is, you know, leading or ending with is diversification of providers. So like, and think of yourself as like a provider location as well. So Bitcoin multisig, you know, look at, you know, 21rates.com. We have a lot of different like options there for different types of custody, collaborative custody, multi-institution custody. It's a free site. So go to 21rates.com. There's a custody page on that. We'll put out more security related info. What I'm looking at is, and I encourage everyone is go do your research, make some decisions, know that like getting hit by a car or dementia is common. So like, don't rely on just like home baked processes to secure your coin. That's what people are encouraged to do by some of the biggest names in the space, but then it still happened with cold cards. So diversify with that on like how you hold your stack, have some that you can access easily if you're on the run, or, you know, if you're have to get out of the country for some reason, you need to be able to be self-sovereign, have your own bank account, but look at tax advantage accounts. Look at having a multi-sig, you know, Unchained is someone who've used. Actually, on Friday, and getting to this, Ledin is one of our new sponsors. So we're excited to have Ledin on as a daily stack sponsor. I'm very excited, you know, to talk about what they're doing, and we'll dive into some of the products they're doing. But that is one place that I did move from a single hardware wallet Bitcoin on Friday afternoon. I was like, I'm going to make sure it wasn't a cold card, but it was another hardware wallet. And I wasn't sure, are we going to see this random number generator bug, this weakness, the lack of entropy happen to more Trezor, Ledger, etc. across the board? So went ahead and moved some coin from there onto Ledin, actually, because I've had a Ledin loan out before, and they're using a regulated custodian that we can dive into. But I think just diversifying where you're holding it, and I didn't want to put everything just on Ledin as a long-term account, but potentially going to take out another Bitcoin loan. If Bitcoin, you know, price action continues to seem like it's bottoming, then like that is where, not financial advice, I would want to take out a Bitcoin loan is at that point where I don't think it, you know, there's liquidation risk, and or it's decreased liquidation risk. So that's what I chose. Not financial advice, but I do feel proud if they are a sponsor of the show that we are putting our real money behind it, putting real money in size on the platform, and then I feel better knowing that. The key thing too, I'm thinking of in my head is inheritance of passing down your wealth. And so you can add in a beneficiary. So obviously, set up an account with Let In. We'll give you a daily stack code in the comments. But then also what you should do is set up 2-factor. So they now support passkeys, which is the recommended option over the OTP codes that you get. And then last thing is set up a beneficiary. So like your spouse, your children, you're able to name beneficiaries there. So that was one of the key things. My wife, I do not think is ready for single hardware wallet functionality of sending transactions with Bitcoin. But if she knows that there's Bitcoin account and she's a legal beneficiary of that, even though she has to jump through hoops, would be able to get that. So that is my spiel. And people need to be thinking about that. Inheritance side is something that we try to tap into on 21 Rates, that educate yourself, figure out, yes, you want to keep things secure where no one else can hack into it, but don't keep it so secure that no one can hack into it or no one gets that coin if something happens to you and your family can't receive it. So bridge that gap, find solutions, and diversify.
Come mute for a second. Tomorrow, starting at 12:30, we got Steve Nemitz from Yorkville, America. He's spent about 25-30 years in institutional finance and advisory, and he will be bringing, they actually have the MAGA ETF as well as y'all ETF, so they're going to be coming to the board, so we're excited to talk with him, as well as Caleb. We're going to be doing a deep dive into Amazon, and then of course KT at 2:30 Eastern. So excited about tomorrow, and we will wrap things up with one of our new ads. We're going to have quite a few new ads here for Let In, but definitely check them out. Hang tight. Bitcoin and gold side by side in one platform. Let In now supports Tether Gold alongside expanded USDT and USAT support. Trade across tens of integrated pairs with transparent spreads. Borrow and repay on the stablecoin that works for you. Every asset is protected by the same custody discipline that safeguarded over $11 billion in client value since 2018. Your transaction account and loan collateral assets are never lent out for interest, never used to generate yield, and never put at risk to fund the business. The world's hardest assets with the flexibility to move between them. Explore what is new at ledn.io. To get that down here so we're not in the screen next time. That was our first go at it. So we'll have many more. Thanks everyone for tuning in. The markets continue to cooperate the rest of the week, but we'll be back here tomorrow.
Cause we pop them like overridden vodka. C3, okay, a millionaire.